All right, here we go. Monday late night happy hour. Cofield. I feel like we have a little echo speaker somewhere. Adam Hill is here. He's working hard.
I actually don't hear any echo. I think we're good.
Okay. This could be either one of us. Oh, actually, it's Adam. No, Adam is back from COVID. He's actually sitting in a chair in a lighted room.
I know. Look at that. It's a
Very
whole new
nice.
world.
It's all back. It's all back.
I escaped.
Do you feel anything? Did you ever lose your sense of smell or taste?
No, I got pretty lucky. I know I heard, and I'm sure we'll talk about Lamar Jackson at some point, but um, I heard him talking about it the other day. He said he basically just slept for 10 days and he just could not get untired,
Really?
which was exactly what I felt. But I guess he was a little bit more symptomatic than I was, which again is it's so weird. Like how long I stayed in isolation, and I was being extra careful, obviously. But Lamar Jackson tested positive after me, and then he's played 2 games. So I would bet anything he's still testing positive. By the way,
Right. And this goes back to last week when we were talking about what do you do when you keep testing positive? Do you go out and expose yourself to people? And the CDC says, what, 10 days? Others say 14, but it's nerve wracking when you first try to come back, like in your case, you were freaking afraid to go downstairs and poison the rest of the family.
yeah, and the dogs. Like I don't know.
Sure.
Um, yeah, and I was, for those that follow me on social media, what's up, man? I was at the Raiders game yesterday. That was my first venture out of the room.
Oh, really?
Very overwhelming.
Why'd you pick the Raiders over UFC? I asked you a question on Friday. I was like, hey, you covering UFC? And you're like, no. I was like, okay, there's something else going on here.
Well, it's weird. I did. Well, I guess I did leave one other time. Um, I left to take a test on Wednesday at the UFC,
Right.
and I was going to go. I was still positive though.
Oh, so they wouldn't let you go?
Um, well, yeah, because the test. If I believe the protocols are, if I would have taken the test with them originally, like if my positive test was with the Raiders, but since that was the first time I was testing with UFC in like a month.
Right.
So that was my first positive with UFC. So for them, that's my first test. So I think if it would have been 2 weeks later, I could have gone even with a positive test. And again, for those that are kind of new to this, so am I. Like I'm learning all this. When players return in the NFL, they're still testing positive. Like they don't wait for a negative test to come back, which is really, really bizarre. And that was a really difficult thing for me to learn out of this whole process. Like it makes zero sense to me.
It's a good comment by Brady. Since NFL journalists are higher on Dana's ranking, shouldn't your test carry over to the lesser MMA media and the event?
That's a good callback for sure.
Yep,
Should
there you
I?
go. By the
God,
way,
should
this is
I?
like everyone. I mean, I think everyone's I would assume in the last 3 weeks, everyone has been exposed to someone who's positive or exposed to someone who was exposed to someone who's positive, like 2 degrees of separation. So Casey Chief 3 says, my dad just tested positive, had a fever of 105.5 and been exposed. So getting tested. I didn't mention last week. I'm not going to get into it too deeply because her friends watch the video, but the SO did not work last week because she had been exposed at her salon because she's a makeup artist, right? So she had worked on one of her friends. Well, her friend didn't tell her that she had tested positive was feeling symptoms. That lady's boyfriend had tested positive. So then this woman didn't tell anyone and was like, now we're all out of work. And she still doesn't get it. So the SO, the SO, right? She is like in a good mood 99% of the time. She started texting with this lady on, I think, Saturday, and I was like, oh shit, I'm getting out of the room. Like
It's a friend.
She's a friend too.
Do I know? Do I know her?
No, I don't think you've ever met her.
Okay.
No, different.
I had a couple suspects.
No, there's a bad COVID hoaxer that she's friends with that I basically said don't bring her to the house anymore. Because she was talking fake media and all this bullshit. I'm like, that's it, get out. But yeah, I mean, it's like everyone. I feel like everyone the last 3 or 4 weeks has had some sort of scare where you're like, God damn it.
Well, it's fun. Not funny. It's just the reality of the situation. When you say you feel like everybody has done this, I literally had somebody. I literally had somebody text me that has been exposed in the last couple of days, and they're trying to like pick my brain about what it's like to go through whatever. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was talking about. It's 10 days. It's a very weird scenario. But somebody texted me, it was like, hey, like 5 people around me just tested positive. What should I expect? Kind of thing. And the she asked me, she said, yeah, I do have great hair. She said she said she said I feel like this is happening like every day. Like I feel like I'm exposed to somebody every day
Yep.
that tests positive. Like what is happening? And I was like, it's fucking out of control right now. Like everyone is getting it. It's nuts. So I have 2 friends right now in isolation that have not tested positive. It's separate, totally set. They don't know each other. That are had exposure and they're waiting. And by the way, just so people out there know, you are supposed to isolate the same for an exposure that you do for a positive test. There's no difference. So I mean that's the other thing that kind of sucks about this. You could end up being exposed like every other week and just have to go back into isolation for 10 days. It sucks, man.
But who's doing that, right?
Right. I mean, I did, but I'm in a very fortunate situation where I could work.
You can work from home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other people, what are they supposed to do?
They're supposed to do it, but again, I mean, it's first of all, it's not enforceable. You got to do it on your own, and it sucks. And listen, even though I could still work, like the isolation was among the worst parts of this. It sucks. It sucks. I was dealing with a lot of like depression and just misery, and it's all part of. And you're also anxious about what's going to happen to you and how sick you're going to get and all those things. But man, it's brutal to go through mentally, and that's kind of why I've been reaching out to a lot of people that are either testing positive or have tested positive, and or have been have been exposed, and I'm just like, hey, just remember, like the mental part is like as tough as the physical part, so make sure you're prepared for that. I was about to say something about 5 minutes ago and I skipped it, but I will go back to it. The rankings, the Dana ranking thing that you said earlier about the media rankings.
Yeah. When he said NFL above whatever, NBA, and then MMA is on the bottom.
So if I was just an MMA writer, do you think he would have not reached out to me?
What do you mean?
I'm saying Dana sent me a text to check on me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Did he mock on you?
No.
So if you have it, he won't call you a pussy. If you're trying to protect yourself from it, he'll call you a pussy.
Apparently not. It was like, hey, like, hope you're doing okay. Keep your head up. Like he said, if you need anything, and he said, if you need access to like better medical facilities, like I got you. Like, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
He's a good guy to have on your side.
But I think if I was just a lowly MMA writer still, I
don't think that's the case. That's not. But I get the joke. He's like, man, he covers the NFL. I better help him out. He's like John Morgan from USA Today. Nah.
Fuck him. Nah. Aioli, fuck him. Okamoto, fuck him. We got an NFL writer here.
Those three guys you named, do you think he would reach out to them to make sure they're okay? He would, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Even Morgan?
I just wanted to make a joke. Yeah, I think so. I just wanted to make the joke about the rankings. That's the only reason he reached out.
And now that it was a good joke. And now that Brett's had his kid, he's good with Brett again?
I think so. I mean, they're a little bit up and down.
Brett was being a little too careful at the beginning of this whole thing with the kid on the way.
Yeah, wearing the mask. Dana didn't like that, making fun of him a lot.
Here we go. Would Schmo and Helen get next level? Probably, right? Or is he mad at Schmo now?
I think the gimmick has worn thin.
It's annoying him?
From what I've been told, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're still kind of committed, like they still work with them and stuff, but I think there was a time when Dana thought like Schmo was the greatest thing that ever happened to media.
It was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah. kind of the bit worth it.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Big schmo.
The big schmo.
Who calls him Big Schmo? It's so bad.
You just did.
No, I saw it.
We're good to go. What was going on tonight with Lamar Jackson? With the with the bathroom issues.
Well, he said there's no bathroom issues.
Okay.
I don't believe him. I mean, he definitely got an IV. Like, there's no question about that. You saw the bandage on his arm, right?
Now, what was the deal with that?
So, what's up, Connor MacPix? When he came out of the locker room, he had like the bandage on his arm where he would have got the IV injection. Am I like off? I think I'm off center. That's fine. I'm tilted.
You're fine.
Where he got the IV injection. So he definitely got an IV. It's possible he just had to crap so much that he had to get an IV to replenish fluid.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people are basing it on leaving in the middle of the game, but also like they could rehydrate you on the sideline. I think. The way he was walking back to the locker room, you saw that video, right?
Yeah, it didn't look good.
He looked like he was doing that, the duck walk where
clenched ass.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that he definitely had to relieve himself. The question is whether it was more than that. Because I do think there was an IV, and let's not forget, like Lamar Jackson just had COVID and he was symptomatic. So like it definitely could be a lingering effect. Like the digestive issues are, one of the major factors.
Which, by the way, I saw a lot of people getting on Lamar Jackson for his throwing early in the game. I didn't see anyone defend him and say, hey, the guy just got done with a bout of COVID.
Yeah, a bad one.
Yeah, and I think with most athletes who come back, we're just like, because we can't even keep track anymore who had it unless you're like in that market or you're really paying attention. Like athletes who played poorly coming out of it or for weeks, it's like, oh, he just sucks. Like, maybe there's something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough to make judgment, a blanket judgment on everyone, E2. But I saw somebody, and I mentioned this before, and I haven't been able to find it again. Somebody was keeping a list of like players that had it and then came back, and especially the ones that were symptomatic and how they performed their first couple of games. And there were some real like duds, like a lot of guys that you're just like, wow, this is terrible. And I think it absolutely has a lingering effect. I listen. I know that there was God damn it, I can't say it. There is a tendency, I think, for media people to compare themselves to athletes in a way. And I think it's completely ridiculous. Obviously, athletes are on a completely different level, but just like getting back to your normal routine, it sucks. And Cleveland Ferrell talked about that. So I won't just say media people do it. Cleveland Ferrell did it, and he was like, "Yeah, you get over it." And Cleveland Ferrell had a symptomatic case for the Raiders. He was like, "Yeah, you get over it, and you're cleared to come back, and you can play." And he's like, "But that fatigue is still with you." And he's like, "The same energy level you had, before, the same energy level you had before you had it is not going to be back there for a couple of weeks. Like you're not going to be able to have that same stamina and energy level. And even for a professional athlete, it's going to take time to get back to that level."
Right.
I yesterday, like I said, it was the first time I went out yesterday, and like I was tired getting dressed. I was like, this is exhausting. And it was just more like, it was like overwhelming. And I'm being sarcastic a little bit. I mean, it wasn't quite like that, but like just normal functions of a day that you haven't done in 2 weeks. You're like, man, this is a lot. It's a very weird feeling, and it sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you, that's how it is. And like I said, Cleveland Ferrell talked about it. It was like just getting up and getting dressed and going to the facility. You're like, oh man, it's a lot. And it is.
So we always talk about playing the number at the right point in football games, right? If you play in bad numbers, you bet the wrong time of the week. This was the opposite. I mean, if you were Browns better, you maxed out value. So you got +3 today, and then you just get completely fucked at the end. That is ridiculous. And you saw, what was it? Was it Everson? He tweeted out that someone bet at FanDuel Sportsbook. They did. Well, did they actually get it, or did they bet the Browns? I can't remember.
They bet +4.5 on a special number.
Yep, -130, +4.5. And, it's 45-42, and then you give up the stupid safety and you lose by 5. That's bad.
It's ridiculous. But at the same time, like, the Browns did the right thing. You should never just be tackled. You should always just keep throwing the ball up, hoping something happens. Like, that's how you're supposed to treat the end of the game situation. And I know it sucks if you had the number. I'll tell you this. I know more than one pro that played it exactly right and had -2.5 +3.5.
Oh, nice.
And had the middle.
Yeah. Oops.
And you totally screwed out. But like, I mean, that's when you're a pro and you're just trying to play numbers like that.
That's a big deal, because that
it's a huge deal.
Betting money too.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. It sucks. It's terrible.
So, do you want to address these clunts? The Josh Allen clunts?
I mean, what are people? I don't have the comments. So.
By the way, who the fuck is Louis, MMA guy? Who is that?
He's a friend of mine. His thing on Twitter is
I'm tagged on all these stupid fucking
I know.
Josh Allen things, and then I click on him like, the motherfucker's not even following me. Fuck off. I was like, it's all day, Louis. Enough. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I can't even get a follow. I got to read this bullshit.
As I've told this Bruce person who I don't know, just on Twitter.
Fucking bot program to freaking tweet everyone. Jump into our show. You're bothering me. I got a flow tonight.
You'll know that Josh Allen is actually good when people don't have to tweet that he had a good game. And yesterday, I mean, does anybody want to dispute his first half looked like he didn't belong in the NFL? I mean, that was horrific. Now, again, Steelers got worn down. The Bills' defense took over the game, and Josh Allen got comfortable. But there's still a massive issue with his confidence level. And, it was pointed out a couple weeks ago, and it really started to make a lot of sense watching him. Because, again, I don't get to watch a lot of the games live. I have to watch the films, which usually I get Tuesday and get to go back and watch. Like, when he starts bad, it goes south quickly. Like, he needs to have some success early in the game. Now, yesterday he turned that around, so that's a good step of improvement. But the bottom line is, yes, Josh Allen is having a very, very good season, and I never expected this kind of season. It doesn't change how bad he was the first 2 years, and it was the Pro Football Focus guys put together that thing because they're all saying how well he's playing, but they said, like, historically, there has never been anything like this in terms of guys playing as badly as he did for 2 years and then having a good season. I think you can chalk it up to a couple things. One, Stephon Diggs. Two, Brian Daboll has figured out how to guard some of the deficiencies that Josh Allen has, and they put him in great spots. If you watch, like, were you watching the game tonight with sound, or did you just have the game on?
Just the game on.
Brian Greasy was making some points about Baker Mayfield that I thought were really, really good. I think Brian Greasy usually is pretty bad, but he made a couple of decent points tonight about watching the film on Mayfield, and he saw the same things I did. Like, Baker Mayfield's success is almost entirely Kevin Stefanski. And you watched last week, Baker Mayfield was throwing passes to wide open receivers. And that's not going to happen all the time. Like, it wasn't happening tonight for a lot of the game. And then in the second half, they figured some things out. Stefanski put him in better spots, and he played well. But like last week, Baker Mayfield had an incredible game against Tennessee because he was scheming guys wide open, and the Bills have done a lot of that this year. And the other thing is Josh Allen, when he's rolling right, is almost unstoppable. But at some point, teams are not going to allow him to roll right anymore. Like, that is going to happen. And so what does he do to adjust to that? That's going to be the question. But if you look back, I think there was like 5 guys that have been as awful as Josh Allen was for 2 years and then had an unbelievable third season. There's like 5 historically. And all of them fell off the cliff afterward. So like I wouldn't get too carried away if I was like a Josh Allen supporter with some success this year. And again, there's been a lot of success that I never thought he was capable of. Again, historically, nobody's ever done this. Nobody's ever been complete crap for 2 years and then figured it out. So I think there's a lot of factors going into it. Again, Diggs is probably the biggest one. Dable second. But how sustainable is it? I don't know. That's the question. Is he going to be Jay Schrader? 2 awful years, 1 unbelievable season, and then where did he go?
Where's Josh Allen now, according to PFF?
I actually haven't looked in a while.
The list I'm looking at, he's 7th.
Yeah.
But they've also got some guys here who haven't played a whole lot. So, like Dak Prescott, they have top 10, which is kind of silly.
Well, he had enough throws. He had like a season's worth of throws in 5 games.
Yeah, it's Rodgers, Mahomes, Watson, Russell Wilson, Tannehill, Brady. That doesn't even seem correct.
Still a weird one. Trying to find it. I mean, it makes sense again. Rich Gannon. Well, he wasn't even. I mean, that was really just again. How many times we talked about this, and people that listen to the show know that we've done this so many times. Not even just about this situation, but a lot of different situations where, like, it's got to be the right situation for a lot of different, especially quarterbacks. It's got to be the right system for most guys, the right system, the right weapons, an offensive line, a coordinator that understands him and puts him in the right positions. Like most quarterbacks are like that. Like Mahomes is different; he changes everything, but he wouldn't. I don't think he'd be the same without Andy Reid. But it takes all of those guys, and Gannon, a career backup essentially, needed to find the right system that understood his strengths and put him in the right positions to succeed. And he finally found that at the right time of his career. So yeah, there is that. There is guys like that, but there was a lot of really, really, really bad on tape the last 2 years.
Who are they going to get to be OC once Daboll's gone?
It's a great question. I mean, I think they have to hope that he doesn't take a job.
I know nothing about him from like a personal standpoint. Have you seen him interviewed? Does he have a head coach's personality?
Not really.
That's what I always wonder. Like when you get these hot candidates, like I know people are cramming Bieniemy down our throats, but I think there's stuff in the past that was keeping Bieniemy from getting a job. We can go with the African American thing, which is certainly legit, but I don't know, man. There are coordinators out there. That's why I keep seeing Daboll pop up on lists. Like, is he a head coach? I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, his offense is good enough, but again, a lot of times he's who he is to me, maybe. Oh, it's mean to say it. Freddie Kitchens?
Yeah, I mean you're going fat white to fat white though.
I know, man.
Yeah.
But offensive genius.
Chubby white to chubby white.
Yeah. That's about who he is. Didn't who was it that looks like they were looking at Dorsey and Bieniemy? Is it Atlanta?
I mean, he should be on Atlanta's list. Yeah, why not?
But I saw the other day that there was a team that was like, yeah, Bieniemy and Dorsey, that's where we want to go. I thought it was Atlanta. I mean,
there was a rumor a week ago that whoever wants Bieniemy gets Dorsey too, and I'm like, I don't know if I want Dorsey.
Right, and then I saw somebody wanted both of them.
It's got to be a package deal.
I do think it was Atlanta. And by the way, that would open it up because we talked about it on the show earlier today. But that would open up Raheem Morris.
Yeah,
which would be good for the Raiders.
Yep. The only fear is if I don't know, if what's his name, Robert Saleh gets a job, where would you rather go, the Raiders or San Fran? Who would you rather be the DC for? San Francisco with all that talent? I mean, they're coming off of injuries, and you get to have the defense with the other side having, a freaking, as you guys call it, a running game that's football porn.
Yeah.
Who would you rather work with, Little Shanny or Gruden? I mean, the Raiders' offense is good. It's just that the Raiders' talent on defense you're gonna come in and be like, all right, you got to get me some help at certain positions. Like we gotta we got to turn over the roster a bit on defense.
Yeah, and I think you have more talent to work with in San Francisco, and everybody's healthy, which is nice. Especially, God damn, Kinlaw is going to be so good. And when Bosa comes back, like that's a pretty good start to a defensive line. Yeah, I mean, I think there's reasons to want the San Francisco job over this job if you're a defensive coordinator, but there's some appeal to Las Vegas, and it's not exactly a crap offense that you have on the other side in Vegas. When you got a pretty good offense to work with,
right?
And no expectations, right? I mean, the defense has been so bad for 3 years. You come in and do anything. As our guy George from PFF said today, you know, if the Raiders defense was like 26th, 25th, that's a big step up. Like they'd probably win a couple more games.
Yeah, they could have 9 wins right now if they were allowing freaking 25 points a game instead of 30. Just a little bit better.
Yeah,
but I also think around the league, they coaches and organizational people must be looking at the Raiders and going, there are some screwy things going around the organization. First of all, the management of COVID has been a disaster. You get these weird draft picks. I'm sorry, and I'm sure most people are going to remember here. If Lynn Bowden turns into a good player, what the fuck? Seriously.
Yeah.
If he's a productive running back receiver, like even a 1,000-yard guy per year, right? Whatever, 600 receiving, 400 rushing. That's ridiculous. Unless they nail like some Pro Bowler with the pick they got back.
Well, or unless he's a bad guy.
But we're going to find out what Vegas is that high risk versus South Beach.
No, I don't think it's about Vegas. I think it's about, again, this is not my reporting. I don't know.
Right.
I'm just saying.
You're right. It's early. It's early, and the words coming from the words were sort of cryptic because they were so in denial of good guy. Good, no, he's a good guy. Good guy. Good. Nothing against him. Good guy. You're like, all right, what happened here? Because no one does this. No one drafts a guy in the 3rd round and freaking trades him before the season.
Yeah, and I think people are idiots. I think that the narrative kind of was that he's not only has some character issues potentially, but that he's also a pretty good like leader. And I mean that like you could be a leader in a bad way.
Right.
That he was influencing other guys, which was like, hey, he's not that bad of a guy. He's an okay guy, but there are some negative tendencies, and he's a natural leader that people will follow. So if there is issues, maybe other people tend to follow behind them, and then it becomes ugly.
They seem to create a lot of their own issues.
Sure.
With COVID, with the fundraiser, with whatever it was, shoe or hat shopping, all that nonsense. And to Brady's point, and the reason I mentioned Bowden is he had a decent game this week. He got targeted like 7 or 9 times in the Dolphins game, and they're down to no running back, so they're like, let's try him.
I think it's 7 catches.
Brady's couldn't they have known he was a dickhead during the interview process? No, it was the opposite. They fucking raved about him. At least it's football. He was the guy, if you remember. He was the guy, if you remember, Max, like, oh, Gruden sent him to the board. Bowden blew him away on the board. like he was a freaking quarterback. I'm like, this is great. Character guy, knows the game. And then before the season, you're like, wait, they traded him?
But again, they also didn't have the normal interview process. And like, I think people keep coming back to this as excuses in a way. But again, we always say facts and excuses. Just a fact, like this year was you didn't get to sit down and talk to the guys. When I talked to Mike Mayock before the season, in the off season, we had a pretty extensive phone call about like just his philosophies, and he just said like, watching a guy in film is so little part of the job. He's like, you want to be on the field when they're playing, you want to smell the grass, and then you want to go to dinner afterwards and talk about the game and talk about life, and like that's how you really get to know a guy and decide if you want to draft him or not. And they couldn't do any of that this year. Like that was all out. It was all Zoom interviews and weirdness. So I think there is part of a factor of that of maybe they didn't, and that's the other part of this, Steve, is that all right, let's just say they did have some kind of sense of who he was or what kind of guy he was or anything like that. Well, you don't get to bring him in for an off season where you get to know a guy, right? So after you do draft him and after you do think you know enough about him, now you don't get to build that relationship. You don't get to build that trust with a guy because he's not in the facility every day all off season, right? So now he shows up at training camp. You don't know him. You never met him. I mean, John Gruden early in the season was talking about some guys, and he's like, "Yeah, I'd like to know him. I've never met this guy before. I've done like 30 Zooms with him, but I've never actually met him." And I'm not talking about Bowden. I'm just saying players in general, like newcomers in general. I think it was actually Kwiatkowski he's talking about. He's like, "Yeah, he seems like a good dude. Seems like a good leader. I like him, but I've never met him before, so I don't know." And I think that was part of it too. Like they didn't have that off season built up of knowledge of each other and understanding of each other where, hey, if something goes wrong, you could sit down and talk about it. Hey, what was this? What happened here? All they had in the off season was the raid at his grandma's house where he's in handcuffs in the front yard. And it's not fair to judge somebody on that at all. But again, you don't have that working knowledge of somebody. You don't have that friendship or the relationship to sit down with the guy and be like, what happened there?
Never know what's happening, right? You never know. Never know what's happening. Could be a weird story. Not to air your dirty laundry, but how many times if all someone knew about you was like crazy interactions with your brother, they'd be like, this fucking Adam guy, what's going on here? His brother's crazy.
Sure.
We're taking him off the board. By the way, the other reason I was getting annoyed today about Bowden, and you're right, he got 9 targets, he got 7 catches, 7 for 82. He only had 1 carry for 2 yards. But I look up, and on ESPN, that dork, what's the fantasy douchebag's name? The bald guy who's friends with Kimmel and all these other...
Matthew Barrett?
He's up there with, I think it was Field Yates, and he starts talking about Lynn Bowden and, if he's a fantasy option next week.
Well, I mean, I think he might be. And by the way, I believe the carry... Oh, sorry. You playing this?
Yeah. Hold on. Sorry. That was my creative lead-in. Sorry, I didn't say I had sound.
Bowden is an interesting player. He was a quarterback during his final season at Kentucky. He was drafted by the Raiders in the 3rd round and then traded before he even plays a snap for them, which is incredibly uncommon. He is eligible at running back and wide receiver right now on ESPN Fantasy. He had 9 targets yesterday. So while I think Washington is the more valuable pure running back, right, Bowden might be actually more – there might be more utility there because you could flex him, right? You could play him wide receiver, running back, wide receiver.
Even though he's going to be...
Right, shut the fuck up. Not Field Yates.
You'd want to play him at running back. There's so many wide receivers. Running backs are what's at a kind of desperate level right now, and obviously only in a PPR. I believe the carry, Steve, because I was watching the film earlier. If I'm not mistaken, it was a handoff that he was supposed to throw, or the play was designed for him to throw it, and nobody was open. So he tucked it and ran, I think, for 2 yards.
Are you noticing how many teams are starting to use the halfback or the wide receiver option? And you start to think back, you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. That guy was a quarterback. That guy was a quarterback. There are so many guys around the league. Is it Gage? Is he the one? Did he throw it yesterday for Atlanta?
Russell Gage threw a dime yesterday.
That's the second time, at least the second time he's done it. He's got a fucking arm.
I know.
And then I think did the Bears use Trey Burton at some point? Because Burton was a quarterback at Florida, was in the race to play starting quarterback. There's so many dudes now who are like slash types.
Jarvis Landry can throw the ball pretty well.
Yeah, not bad. He's lefty, right? I think.
Yeah.
Lefty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of dudes now, which is cool. Adds a cool element to the game.
No question. And it's effective. I mean, especially with, guys over pursuing and trying to work out different
saying Charchian's the only guy for fantasy. It's not really much of a secret since Mitch is the one who kind of discovered him.
Charch is the one, by the way, I'll give a shameless plug here. He's the one that invented, I don't know if he just runs or up the guillotine leagues. My God. It's the most fun ever. If you love fantasy, it's the way to go. I'm still alive, by the way.
So as the season goes along, you just play against the whole league, and the teams at the bottom get chopped.
So at the beginning of the year, there's 17 teams in your league. So 17 team draft is pretty deep. There's a lot of players that are selected, but every week, there's no head-to-head matchups. It's just the whole league. The last place team is out. So like you might enter a league and only play 1 week. So the last place team every week gets out. So as it goes along, there's one less team every week, and then those players are available to pick up. So by the end of the year, your teams are just loaded. So now, I just survived this week, finished second place out of 4. So now we're down to 3 teams for the rest of the year. And the teams are obviously stacked because you've just picked up guys all along the way. But when it gets down to 4, there's no more pickups the rest of the year. So we got what we got now. And yeah, first time doing it. Got down to 3 teams. I'm happy. By the way, Mitch was in my league. I think he got knocked out like 5 weeks ago.
Ah,
yeah,
tough break.
Yeah, I'm still around. 3 teams left. Very exciting.
I just broke our rhythm playing the Bowden.
It's fine.
The Bowden
well, as you're regrouping, my wide receiver core in this league: Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, and Calvin Ridley. And I have Terry McLaurin on my bench.
It's not bad.
Not bad at all. It's winner take all, Brady, to answer your question. So
north of $1,000 must be.
I'm in a pretty cheap league, I think. I think mine was a $50 entry.
Oh, no.
Well, what, 17 teams were in it? Winner take all? Not bad.
Yeah. Should we do that with the Kansas City guys as like a side draft? Morning draft.
Yeah.
Morning draft, night draft.
Love that. Be great. I think we could reach out to Church to set up like a private league too. Be awesome.
Oh, there's a certain platform you're playing on? Like he's got it all set up?
Yeah, it's guillotineleagues.com.
Okay.
Yeah, it runs it. It's great.
I was going to say, it's not me. It's not me in like 1997 handwriting. Not that I did this. I was in a league where I was playing fantasy long enough ago. Old guy story. Where you're like waiting for the stats for baseball on a Tuesday morning with USA Today, and then someone's got to handwrite the goddamn standings, and then you're like waiting for the mail. Like, let's go.
Oh, I've been there, done those. It's fun. I remember I ran combined with a friend of mine who I don't think he watches, a guy named Josh that was in my high school. We used to run an NCAA tournament pool in high school, and I think sophomore year we had like 50 people. I do remember Sandbox. Jesus. I think sophomore year
was there anything special about that, or was it just one of the first platforms?
I think it was just one of the first ones.
I remember too. I think we advertised with it, or we did a couple of promotions with it.
Yeah. I think sophomore year we had 50, and by senior year we were up to like over 500 entries. And this was kind of before, online sign up. So we had to pass them out to everybody and score them by hand, which was like such a process. The best part of that was then we went on to college at UNLV, and all the teachers from high school were like, a week before the tournament, like calling us up, like, "Hey, you gonna come back and run this pool?" We're like, "No, we're not there anymore." But we did. We went back there, picked up the brackets. It was fun. Yeah, it was great. Running bookie services at 18.
Who didn't, right?
I think we've told this before that I was putting parlays in at 16 at Vacation Village.
Oh yeah. Didn't you have a certain person that was cool with you?
Jim.
Did you have one at Nevada Palace too, or was just Jim at
No, Jim got moved.
Did he get moved to Nevada Palace?
And then Bourbon Street.
Ah, Bourbon Street. I love Bourbon Street.
Yeah. And one of my I actually know his last name too, I won't say it though. But one of the great Jim stories of him being our guy, because then he would like text us and say where he was going, like where he'd be working, so we could go put bets in.
That was Leroy's, right? So they bounced around.
Yeah. And he never questioned. We just said like, "Oh, you're a great writer. We'll watch games wherever you are." No, we'll watch games there because this is the only place that'll let us in because we're 17 years old. Yep. And at one point, a mutual friend of ours, got busted by a casino. It was actually Tropicana when Leroy's went in there.
Yep.
And got busted by the Tropicana and making the bets. And Jim was like, no. I've been taking this guy's bet for like 5 years. He's good.
Oh, he's good.
We're like, no, he's 20.
Oh my God.
That was not a good day. Jim was not happy with us.
Poor Jim.
Yeah. I wonder if he's still around. He's probably at a. They turned into like William Hill eventually. Maybe he's still at a William Hill somewhere.
The reputable William Hill as opposed to Leroy's.
Sure.
Leroy's was okay. It was okay. It was just that if you got placed at a slow volume place, because for folks that don't know, you do, when you work at sports books, I have no idea what the deal is now, but you can make a little bit of money with tips. And if you worked at a low volume place and you had no chance of getting any tips, so
yeah, it was bad.
Where did I get buried? Out on Nellis, like out by the base. Barcelona, is that still there? Like way the fuck out by the racetrack.
Didn't they change it to like the Speedway?
No, Speedway's right at 15 and is it Craig or Cheyenne?
Yeah.
Speedway's right up to 15. Now this is all the way on the east side. Barcelona, I'm guessing, and I don't even know if it would be a prime candidate, I suppose, to get purchased by one of the slot hall places, but the place was so junky that I'm not even sure they'd want it, so they could gut the building.
It looks like, I mean, it's still, you can still Google it and like call it up. Might still be there. You can make reservations at this place, it looks like. No rating available though. Yeah, East Craig for Barcelona.
Is Valley Verde the place that used to be? Why can't I remember the name of it?
It's Thirstbusters.
I was going to say Drink Busters, but it used to be Thirstbusters.
Yeah.
Is it still called? What is it called now? Is it called Valley Verde?
Casino Valley Verde, I think so.
It's called. Yeah, Big Mac is over that way, but they have good food there. They have really good food there.
And they have which one sounds
like a place you'd see on live PD?
Barcelona.
It was weird. It wasn't like a terrible place. It was just you were buried in the back. It was low ceiling, sort of like what are the two casinos? I don't even know if they're going to reopen. I don't even know if they're open now. There's like there's a couple of, is Rainbow Club one of the small ones in Henderson, right on water, and the ceiling is like,
didn't they get bought out?
Did they really? God damn it!
I think so.
It's the worst.
We're just reminiscing about places that have been bought out or purchased.
Yeah, because when things open up again, there's gonna be no fucking bars left, no local bars.
Well, maybe it just said actually. There's a story from last month that said it just reopened with a new burger restaurant.
Good.
So it is still open.
That's awesome, and I'm sure Ellis Island is still open because that place is hopping.
Oh, have you been there for the beer garden? I
have not.
Dude, it's incredible.
I'm sorry. Wrong place. Ellis Island's awesome. You're right. I was thinking, what's the Irish themed place that's right across from Rainbow Club in that small parking lot in Henderson on Water Street?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Because 15 years ago they actually did some advertising with us.
But they've got the Emerald. Is it the Emerald Isle or something like that?
It is Emerald Isle. Yep.
Yeah. The Water Street area is hopping now, though.
That's my fear, is that those places are going to get pushed out. Right. And AJ Real there is, you're right, El Dorado. Last time I was at El Dorado, it was a while ago, like right at the beginning of the pandemic, because we went to go pick up some growlers from, is it Love Lady?
Yeah, Love Lady.
And the El Dorado was just empty. Even the restaurant was closed super early. Their restaurant's pretty decent.
Love Lady's awesome. Obviously, there's a Wands right there, which is tremendous, and then the new Silver Knights facility is
also,
right there.
What's the Rebel theme bar down there too? UNLV, is it Hardway 8? That bar. Mm-hmm. I hope they're still open because they put money into it. Decent place.
Yeah, Water Street is jumping now. It's not awful anymore.
I lived in Henderson on several occasions, and I like Henderson, but it's just too far from work now, so I'm lazy. I guess it wouldn't matter now since we're on freaking lockdown.
Yeah.
Speaking of the radio station, and this is not really a topic for tonight, but I know we have some people who really pay attention to the station and programming, and the fact that Le Batard's going bye-bye on January 4th. I thought I put it in the chat room. This was a really good read from Jason Barrett, who's a former PD at a bunch of places, program director. And one of the writers went around and talked to like 10 different bosses at sports radio stations around the country about Le Batard leaving and Mike Greenberg and Max filling that gap. And the program directors, because it was anonymous, oh boy. Like, they weren't hammering ESPN radio, but a lot of them are like, what are we doing? Like, you're killing us.
Yeah.
And then a couple had a strong opinion on, because I don't know if folks know, but they needed to fill more time than just Kellerman and Greenberg. So they added Bart and Hahn, which is Bart Scott and this guy, Alan Hahn. But the show is in New York, from New York. And it's like, well, like what's the rest of the country do with this show? Like, we're going to listen to Bart Scott, who flamed out on WFAN because he can't talk anything other than football, and all they're going to talk is New York sports. And like
it's jockocracy.
ESPN Fresno is going to be fired up to fucking put the show on. So a lot of it was that. It was like, well, I mean, the brand is still good, but I don't know what we're going to do. Like, man, these shows, I really can't put these shows on. So, interesting.
Maybe it's...
And they interviewed the head of programming on ESPN Radio, and honestly, I don't know. I think if you read it, you'll puke. It was very, very polished boss talk. He's like, I'm always willing to listen. Just email me. Like, I don't think you want your email out there, dude.
We're willing to listen to any male voice in New York City.
Right. Well, and it's the thing is, it's all interconnected, right? If they put shitty, especially for the West, like in the East, if you don't want to run Greenberg or Kellerman, they're on early enough. If you have morning programming, you just cover them. But like for the West, those are the slots, because a lot of these are small stations. You have a morning show, you have an afternoon show. You need shows on from like 10 to 3, and that's where those guys are. So you've got Max Kellerman coming on and, just freewheeling it and talking boxing on a Monday after a busy NFL weekend. You're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Is it
weird
possible that ESPN National is trying to encourage stations to have local programming?
No. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, they almost don't try.
No, I think they realize that their budget, their budget restrained or constrained, and they're going to max out the TV guys, for as much as they can. Yeah, you know what? I want to read you. I didn't really want to get into this too much because I want people to read it, but they sent out one of the he's kind of a new boss on the radio side. Like he said something to the effect of like the old radio guy who's just a radio guy, those days are done. Like, yeah, we get those days are done. We're all doing fucking 50 things. But the radio guy is the guy who does radio first. That's his first duty. He doesn't, Adam obviously has a job that's ahead of the radio gig, but he still puts time into radio. But you get my point, right? Like, these are all TV guys who are like, oh, I got to do the radio show.
Right. I think we'll get the echo. I think you're on the right track of that. Of he's right that nobody is just a radio person anymore. You've got to do radio. You've got to do the video stuff. You got to put out content in a different way. You got to do all these things. But if you're going to have a national radio show, radio should be the first of those things. He's saying there's no difference between radio first and then do all these other things and do all these other things and then also do radio. Like, there is a difference between those things.
Right. He said, quote, the media business has evolved. Okay. It's a cross-platform landscape. The days of being a, quote, radio person have long ended. If you think otherwise, you're not being realistic. Well, the days of a guy doing radio is his third gig and getting any ratings, those days have ended as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, the people have too many options to listen to somebody that's mailing it in.
Give us decent shows, and if his response was like, well, you guys should be able to sell whatever we give you. Like, well, not that easy because my clients actually have opinions. They listen. They do.
I know.
It's like, come on. So whatever. We're all doing podcasts eventually. There you go. Well, this is not true. KFan is a kick-ass station, but it's not true. There are lots of stations around the country that have legit radio folks where the radio job is their first job. But I'm not going to argue with KFan's formula because they do get killer ratings and they do basically mock on stick to sports, which I love. So Yeah, the score, huh?
I don't even know who's on there.
Who's in the afternoon? Is that the station that Danny Parkins is on?
I don't know. I don't know much about Chicago radio at all.
I think Matt Spiegel is trying out for the slot, but the dude Carrington in KC will probably get the job. But I don't follow radio that much. But I think that's the station.
Breaking.
Well, that was the position. Who's the old guy who got fired like 6 months ago for making the comment about Maria Taylor looking like she was hosting the AVN Awards?
Oh yeah,
right. So that's that slot that's open up. So no, but Chicago, there's a lot. We don't have to go through it. There's a lot of good radio stations.
Like Waddle and Sylvie.
No, Waddle. You know what? I am right on that. Waddle and Sylvie's actually ESPN 1000, and the score is the one with Parkins. I'm almost positive. But
where did we did a show from ESPN 1000, right?
Fuck, I can't remember.
I think it was because it's right there in the loop, like right across from Chicago Theater, I believe, is where ESPN 1000 is on. I believe on Michigan Avenue.
They have a downstairs studio too, right? Correct.
They have a studio. They have a studio that's like facing the street.
Yeah.
And then they have other studios upstairs, but like their main programming, like during the day, I think comes from that studio out on the street, and it's right next to a TV station. That also has their studio, their like news studio right out on the street, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was ESPN 1000.
Yeah. Is it Michigan Avenue?
I don't know. I don't remember.
That's what you're looking up. No, I thought that's what you're looking up.
No, I was actually looking up. I was looking up my contact and where he worked. The guy that used to be at like One-on-One Sports and Sporting News Radio and all that. So anyway, all right, we go off the.
It's State Street. That's what it was. That's what it is.
Give it a read. I think it's pretty interesting. It's in the chat now if you care. So I care. All right, so couple of news items. What's going on with your boy Barr? Not John Barr, Bill Barr. What's going on here? Has he finally decided, like, I can't go down with this ship? What's happening? He's trying to create a little separation?
I mean, that's kind of my read on it. I think that as much as he resigned technically. Who knows if he was fired or resigned? That's always a mystery in this organization. I'm very interested in what exactly went on, and I'm sure we'll hear some stuff. Like, Bill Barr is a scummy, slimy, awful, horrific person in this administration. I mean, he enabled so many things. But I think there is a part of him, like when he first was coming in, there was like a lot of the establishment were like, oh, good. Like, this is a guy who, he's at least right mind. But I think that was very dangerous because you had somebody who understood the law and was of the right mind, but was also willing to do the evil things Trump wanted. But I think there is a part of him that's like, this last month is going to be such a fucking shit show that I got to get out. Like, I don't want this to be tied to me for history. Like, I can't be a part of this. And Brady, our closet Trumper, I'm still blown away by that. I think he's right there. Like, he doesn't want to. Whatever is going to happen this next month. Barr was just looking around. He's like, nah, man. I can't do this. It could get real crazy. Not that it hasn't already. I mean, we are just a debacle of a society right now. But I think it's going to get even worse. And I think Barr's just like, nah, not me. I'm out.
So what kind of crazy? Like finally info on the Russian scandal? Is it that kind of crazy? What is it?
I mean, I think it's going to be. Well, first of all, the continued. The continued shenanigans with the election. And I did hear, God, I wish I remember who was talking about this. It was a Republican that was talking about this, a former congressman who was just saying, like, they already have their plan of what they're going to do, like on certification day in Congress. And they're basically going to block, they're going to block the certification and make it go to like a joint session, and it's going to become so ugly on that day.
I really hope there's physical fights.
Well, and that's the other thing of like,
just fucking throw down all these 60 and 70-year-olds.
And do they start encouraging violence on the streets? And like, who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. It's gonna be chaos, I think, and I think Trump is gonna try some things, and I will not reveal our sources on this, but we had somebody who knows a lot of these things who was trying to calm my fears on this, and just saying like, listen, he might try all kinds of crazy shit, but like at all levels of the government and military, there are people that will stop it. And that was somewhat comforting because I think we've seen a little bit of that already. Of like do people realize like what this is? Let's not beat around the bush or like kid ourselves. There is an attempted coup going on right now, and I know people like listen to that word and they're like, "Oh, that's crazy." Well, it's being blocked, right? But it's being blocked.
It's America.
Like, thank God. Like we're not like when people think coups, they think like going into the Capitol building and cutting off everybody's head and like just taking power. Like that's what's happening here. Is somebody is ordering the election to be stolen, and a bunch of people, even on his side, are like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm not going to do that." Even if they are, completely in his corner, like they're blocking it. So there are like right-minded people, even if they have been in Trump's pocket for 4 years. There are smart people that are like, "Yeah, I'm not going to be a part of this. I can't." So like the coup is not going anywhere, but that is what is happening. So it's crazy. And so how much worse is it going to get in a month?
Yeah, I'm not rooting for violence on the streets. I'm voting for violence at the highest level with these politicians. So because there are so many that talk up. Yeah. Who did Ted Cruz challenge? Was it Cuban? And he's like, Jim Jordan will fight you. Like, no, you fucking fight, Ted Cruz. Don't you can't sick someone else on the Mark Cuban, because I saw it happening. I don't know if he ever answered, but I think Rex Chapman was calling out Ted Cruz, and I was waiting for Ted Cruz to, to pull the same thing. Like, how about you fight, how about you go fight Jim Jordan? How about I fight you? Fuckface. Let's go. There's nothing better than, froggy, trash talking social media types who are 50, 60, and 70. So let's do it. That's a pay-per-view, not fucking the Paul brothers.
What if you saw Nate Diaz said he was going to fight Jake Paul for free? What he really said, I could get it.
What's even better than that? If I were Nate Diaz and I could actually fight, my move would be with the Paul brothers. I will pay both of you to fight me back to back. I will pay you. I want nothing.
So Nate Diaz didn't directly challenge him. Here's what he said, because it's actually a pretty good exchange. He said, "Jake Paul, you need your ass beat for free, you spoiled fuck. You can't really fight, you dumb shit. You're going to end up with your ass whooped for real somewhere talking like that." So he basically was like, listen, you're beating up people that don't know how to fight. Shut the fuck up, because you're going to talk trash to somebody that's going to just murder you.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake Paul responded, and he said, "You saw what happened to the other Nate." So,
oh my God.
Don't fuck around with the Diaz.
They don't joke, man.
So Nate Diaz then...
those are the kind of guys who will show up. Like they will show up to wherever you are, like at a club, at a bar, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're not going to start a fight at a club." The fuck I ain't.
Don't fight anywhere. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, dude, you'll get arrested. I don't care.
Yeah. Put it this way: if like Nate Diaz was at his own wedding and he was on the altar like doing the vows, and somebody did something he didn't like, he would leave and fight.
He'd run right out.
He wouldn't care. He doesn't care about anything. But he's great. Like I love Nate Diaz and I love Nick Diaz. Like they're two of my favorite interviews ever. Every time I've interviewed them, I've just been fascinated. But they will fuck you. Like this isn't a joke.
Was it Joe Riggs and Diaz at St. Rose?
At the hospital, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a UFC?
I don't know. I thought it was
UFC.
Okay. But
yeah, they fought each other. They both had to go to the hospital from injuries sustained in the fight. And then they had them in adjoining rooms at the hospital. And Diaz got up and tried to fight him in the hospital. Like as they were connected to the bed, like they were had IVs on him or whatever, and he's like trying to throw down. He's insane. I love him.
They're both crazy.
But Nate Diaz responded to Jake Paul's tweet and said he tagged his brother Logan Paul. And he said, "Logan Paul, check this little hoe bitch before somebody else does.
Nice.
So I think they're if he see like that's the thing. Like I think Jake Paul is kind of fucking around on Twitter.
Yeah.
You don't do that with Diaz's, man.
No.
Like they Diaz in real life. This is not a game to them.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No.
We need to mention some MMA here for a second.
Sure.
You humble bragged earlier about Dana reaching out to you, saying, "Hey, are you okay, bro?" That's nice.
Only because I'm on this level.
It's a good story. Remember some of the stories over the years about guys who, and we even saw it when they fought, who would just take punches because at the time, they were in their prime and they thought they could.
That wasn't a COVID cough, was it?
No.
Okay.
I've had a sore throat for doing too many shows.
Okay.
But, like a good example is BJ Penn. Like BJ Penn just took punches to the head and was like, "Oh, he's got a rock skull." And another guy like that is Tony Ferguson. And now you see the effects of being in these wars. He's shot. I mean, losing to Charles Oliveira when you were this close to being the 155 champ, and Oliveira's a good fighter.
Yeah, he is.
But
it was he dominated him.
What happened?
I mean, I actually saw a breakdown that I haven't watched it. I kind of saved it on my computer earlier. I'm going to watch it in a little bit. Luke Thomas, friend of ours, did a full fight breakdown of the tape.
Right.
And his description was like he didn't do anything like over the top technical, but he was just really good throughout the fight. Oliveira fought a really good fight, and Ferguson, who has been, in the top 3 lightweights for the last decade, he looked as bad as he ever has. And he fought Justin Gaethje early in the pandemic.
Yep. And
Gaethje beat the ever living fuck out of him.
Right.
And I think that I talked to somebody pretty high up at the UFC the other day who said to me, it was not Dana, it was a different conversation, but who just said, I think Tony got the life beat out of him in that fight.
Right.
And I just don't think he'll ever be the same. And I think it's true. Like he didn't have he had no answer.
Hey, he could probably needs to take a good year and a half off and try to recover, and then he can come back and, bounce around and be in some brawls. But yeah, I mean, it came and went because he had too many fights where he chose to stay in the pocket and he was a tougher guy, but he's taken too many fucking shots over the years.
Well, also, I mean, Tony Ferguson is a very, very weird person. Just in general, he's a weird dude.
Yes.
But he also has had some issues outside the cage, and they haven't been talked about that much, but they've been pretty bad. Like he thought that the FBI was following him for a while, and he did some crazy things to try to get away from them. He had some issues with his family, like saying he was protecting them, but really there was nothing to protect them from. And I don't know if that's mental illness or if that's having your head hit too many times. And yeah, I think somebody's hiding in his refrigerator. Tony. So I mean, those things start to concern you, right? Where, people have mental illness, they deal with them. I'm totally sympathetic to all that, but at the same time, like sometimes I think it's compounded by head trauma, and he's taken a lot of it.
And we've seen it with football players who just go off the deep end, struggle.
Yeah. So
that dude we talked to a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you were on the show. It was probably last week too. Middle of last week, that guy Ron Johnson. Were you on the show that day? So we had this guy Ron Johnson on who went to Minnesota, played a little bit with the Ravens. He's doing some Mountain West Conference football now. Former wide receiver. His dad was actually on the Steelers, and he has a story. His dad just, like the last 10 years of his dad's life, he had nothing. He just, just dementia kicked in, and they tried to, you got to manage him, but his dad, the mom even said, like, I would go to games and you could hear like the violence of the headshots and helmets clashing, and the dad, he loved it. He was like, "Oh, did you hear that? You hear the freaking clash?" But the guy caught up to him later in life.
Yeah, it's sad.
Someone better keep an eye on Tony Ferguson. Make sure that he's not sparring, and he really doesn't need a rest because he shouldn't be struggling that much to win fights.
And he shouldn't be screenshotting incoming calls either. I know we talked about that one last week. He's for those that didn't see it, there's a video. He was in the middle of an interview. First of all, he was mad at our friend Brett for interrupting his question or interrupting his answer, which he didn't really do. But then he got a call and he looked at it and he screenshotted the incoming call.
Yeah, this is weird.
Which I still don't understand why.
You guys think that he doesn't know how to use like a caller ID or recent calls?
We think he doesn't know how to find the call log. Yeah, the recent call log. So he screenshots calls so that he can call people back.
So he just looks through his photos and he's like, "Oh, that's who called."
Yeah, I think that's what he does. But I also don't. I have no idea what Tony Ferguson is about right now. That's crazy. Did you? First of all, Kevin Holland is going to be a massive superstar. Have you got to see him fight at all?
No. Where's he from? What does he fight at?
Jesus, he's fighting at he's doing a little 170, 185. I think he's fought at a little bit, but I know he wants to fight Shemaev, who's like the new breakout star that he's basically just dominated everybody he stepped in with. So everybody's calling him out now. Although I wouldn't want to fight that dude, but Holland is I think he came off Contender Series. Actually, I think he did a Contender Series fight. But Kevin Holland does not stop talking the whole time he fights. He's talking trash. He's talking to people in the crowd. And then he just puts together some of the most entertaining fights you're ever going to see and just whips you. I think he has 5 wins this year, if I'm not mistaken. But he had a knockout. I'm trying to see if there's a video that I can send you to show it. But it's literally a knockout I don't think I've ever seen anybody pull off in MMA before. Jesus, why is it so long? Somebody posted a clip of it that's a breakdown of the knockout that's 10 minutes long. What are we doing?
How about I grab it for another night?
Yeah, it might be on here right now. But he was on his back, and as I think Brady just pointed out, he's laying on his back talking shit on his back. And you're like, dude, just try to get out of that. Don't lay down there. But yeah, he basically from his back kicked his leg up and used it to spring himself to his not to his feet but just forward and swung. He was fighting Jacare. He knocked him out as he pulled himself forward from his back. To get enough power on your shot to do that is insane. And he Jacare is he's taken some trauma of his own, but he's still a pretty high level fighter. And to get knocked out by that was crazy. But Kevin Holland has potential to just be a massive superstar.
This is a great question for normal people, but it really isn't a good question for us.
Okay.
Cofield or Adam, would you allow your kids to play football? It's not even a... Can you wrap your head around it? You don't have kids. I don't think you're having kids. I don't have kids. I'm not having kids. I mean, I would probably lean towards but I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean,
if they wanted to, but my guess is, I shouldn't say it, but I don't feel like my stock is going to turn out a football player. I think JVT's got a shot with Diego.
I think so too.
The kid is fucking massive. I had him targeted as a defensive tackle. How old is the son? Is he 1.5 now?
I think so. The kid's massive.
I can't tell because he looks like he's 6.
Right.
But I had him projected to be 5'11", 315. But I think I don't. You know what? I don't know how he's going to be. I don't know how he's going to be 6'2", 6'3", but he's. I don't. He. I think he outweighs his mom.
Well, did you see the photo of them? Yes, they took the kid up to Mount Charleston. Yes, I think we traded in the group text.
And his mom is as freaking tiny as you can be, petite as you can be.
Yeah.
So the kid's gonna dwarf her, but he's barely out of the womb.
Yeah, I think he's barely 2.
Massive. He's got your head and JVT's head, massive dome.
Yeah. Yeah, he's if he's 2, he's barely 2. I don't think he's 2 yet. He's right around there, and his mom, JVT's wife, holding him up. Isabel's holding him up, and the head is about even, and his feet are almost touching the ground. It looked insane.
I don't.
Like,
The feet weren't touching the ground, but they were like
it looked like it.
they were like to her waist. Yeah,
It was really. He looked way too big to be being carried around by his mom, but he is only like 2.
Yeah, it's funny. Petro about 2 weeks ago went on this weird thing where he was just talking about football players and just like, we were talking about, and your brother gets into this all the time, like. If you're good looking enough, or you have the looks to be a good football player at certain positions,
quarterback.
Well, he was insistent on like offensive linemen. There are some offensive linemen who are just like big. There's like everything on them is just it's fucking. Their head's gigantic, the hands, the feet. And he was pointing out it was Eric Winston was like one of these guys, and now he's like, look at him now. He's like in charge of the NFLPA. And we pulled him up. I was like, yeah, he does have a freaking giant head and just like defined features. And I think that's going to be JVT's kid. He's going to be a fucking monster.
Well, my brother is big on, and I sent you a real quick clip of that knockout if you want to see it. But my brother is big on, if you're not good looking, you can't be a quality quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. I brought up Sam Darnold, and he's like, absolutely not.
Like he doesn't look. He doesn't have like the looks that command respect in the huddle.
Petro is yeah. I don't know, man. Petro is making the case that Brady's actually an anomaly, that he's not good looking, and he's somehow overcome it. I was like,
Brady?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I don't know. He seems to have done okay with the ladies.
Well, I would say, listen, I am
big features. Big features, Brady. The horse mouth, big teeth, giant grill.
Well, here's the thing though. Like, I would say, like, Lamar Jackson in my eyes could do no wrong. Like, the guy is unbelievable. You saw it tonight. I mean, the guy, he's ridiculous. He's a weird looking dude though.
I don't think I've ever looked at him to judge his looks. Not saying
Lamar Jackson, he might break that mold. He's a funny looking guy. Plus, his head is also massive.
I mean, didn't the Mannings break that mold?
Yeah.
I mean, Big Ben's not exactly a looker. He's more that kind of that big galoot, big lug type dude.
Yeah, he gets what he wants, though.
By the way, who do we fade more? What's wrong?
He gets what he wants.
Yeah, I get it. I went right over it. Who's going to fade worse because of age/fatigue the rest of the way? Brady or Big Ben?
This year?
Yep.
I mean, it's got to be. I think it has to be Ben. First of all, I don't think he.
You're like both.
Well, yeah, both. But I mean, how much farther can Brady slip in terms of arm strength? But I think Roethlisberger's. I mean, he's talking a lot about it. Plus, we say what we want about, about. we say what we want about Brady, but he does really, really take care of himself. Like, he focuses a lot,
and Ben does not. I mean, he looked like he weighed 340 in the offseason.
Yeah, and so I think that's a big difference. And Ben's feeling it. I mean, you heard some of Ben's comments the last 2 weeks. He basically was like, "I need to quit. Like, I suck right now. I'm falling apart. He's hurt. He can't do anything. He's like talking like he's done." So I would say that he's much more of a candidate to fade badly down the stretch.
That quarterback looks thing. I'm testing the theory with my love and desire to get Trevor Lawrence, right?
What is it? Doesn't he have like the surfer looks though? Like, that's a look.
His head appears to be gigantic.
But that's a look though. Like, I don't think he's classically good looking dude.
All right. So he's like a giant Spicoli.
I mean, that's the obvious comparison. Yeah. He's a surfer guy. But where is he actually from? I don't even know.
I think he's from Alabama, actually.
Okay. I mean, where do you surf in Alabama? Like, he looks like a surfer. That's a weird one. Yeah, I don't know where he would have picked up that look. He doesn't look like a guy from Alabama at all.
This is embarrassing. I should know every single thing about Trevor Lawrence.
He's
from Georgia. He's Georgia, okay. Actually. He was born in Knoxville. Fuck, dude, come on. Born in Knoxville. And then he went to Cartersville, Georgia, high school.
Huh. Where the hell's Cartersville?
I don't know, I'm gonna look right now.
That's good. That's good. We need to get like a north. All right. So not
Northwest
far
of
from. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have an Atlanta look to him at all.
I mean, I think Max Gillum's turned out to be a decent, Division I quarterback. Jim's saying that's Max Gillum. He is a good-looking kid.
Oh, he's got some money.
And who said earlier in the that something about money? Money fixes things too.
Yeah, true. Makes you look better.
Miller J said money makes you good-looking too.
Well, I also don't like the whole like you don't look like where you're from or whatever. I honestly, and I probably should have known this because I'm sure it's been documented a lot. I'm working on a feature on Joey Bosa right now.
Yeah,
I had no idea he was from South Florida.
Yeah, he's from South Florida.
I had no clue.
Are you including the best part about his background? Are you going to do
the mob ties? Of course.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. But I also didn't know like how much I knew about the dad, and I knew that the great grandfather was like not just like people talk about
he was the
mob. People talk about mob ties. He was the guy.
He was the fucking guy in the Chicago Syndicate after Capone went on. But before that, he was Joey Bats. He was the fucking enforcer.
Right. He earned that from the St. Valentine's Day dinner. Yes. Where he just took the bat out and beat a bunch of guys. And Capone was like, "Hey, it's Joey Bats over here. Joey Batters, I think they called him. Joey Batters over here."
It was Joe Batters, yeah.
Yeah. And then
he's like top of the food chain. And he's actually, if you I always get confused on all the different mob guys, even though I watch this stuff all the time. I'm pretty sure he's one of the rare guys who didn't get taken out.
He didn't.
Yeah, and died of natural causes. So
I was reading all about him today, so I have some background on him. But he was what they say is like Capone, obviously his downfall was that he was way too flashy. And Accardo, who's the Bosa great grandfather, was just like the brains guy. He was street smart. He dropped out of school at 14, but he was like the street smart brains guy who also was just like he was violent as fuck because it took that to get in everybody's good graces. Right. But then when he got there, he was just, hey, we're just going to do business. And he expanded the empire. And they said Capone still gets all the headlines because he was so flashy and people talk about Capone, but Accardo was like way more powerful. And if you think about it, Capone was in charge for 6 years.
Yep.
In Chicago.
Accardo did he last like 25 or 30 years?
Close to 60.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And a lot of it, he left, he kind of lived a quiet life and got away from it, but he was still running it. In fact, there's a story that he was 71 years old and he was not living there anymore. I think he was living between like South Florida and LA. He was like out of it, but he was still running it from afar. And his home in Chicago got vandalized. It got broken into, stuff got stolen, some stuff got vandalized. And he wasn't even there, wasn't a part of it, but he was enraged at the disrespect. And within 2 months, 10 people were dead. And like the murders were so violent. Like I was reading about some of the details of what he did to the bodies. Like, my God, he didn't do it. I think he sent people to do it, but like it was horrific. Like he wiped everyone out. And I guess the guy that got it the worst was like the one Italian that was part of the group that did the break-in. Because he's Italian. He should know better. That's my impression. He should know better. So like they fucked this dude up. They burned his face off with a blowtorch. Like they fucked him up. So that's the Bosa.
How are you writing about this? And why don't people write this feature in every town? Because it is fascinating.
It is, but mine's more the Bosa football family. Right. You know, of the 3 generations after this mob guy that we're talking about,
right?
7 NFL players.
Yep.
7, including the receiver for the Packers, Jake Kumaro.
Yeah.
Also in the family.
Well, Kumaro, isn't that one of the grandfathers? I think, and he was wasn't he? He was with the Bengals, I think. Like Jake's dad.
Yeah.
Was it Eric Kumaro?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, it's fascinating, and that's why they're all fucking gigantic. And by the way, Dolphins. There you go. Have you heard Joey Bosa speak?
Yeah, the Zoom today.
What'd you think?
He doesn't say much. He's quiet.
No, he doesn't. Like I've moved the SO to that side. I'm like, your defensive end is either he's really quiet or he is fucking stupid. Because he has nothing. He is just he is the definition of big galoot. I mean, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's
I don't
great.
need it to be a good interview, but holy crap! Like you noticed he didn't on Hard Knocks, like nothing.
No, because he didn't say anything.
Shit. It was a couple of like casual conversations, but he's just there's nothing.
Well, you think? I mean, coming from his family, you learn to keep your mouth shut early, right?
Yeah. Here, this is not even a question. Yeah, which family would you take in a fight? Like a fight on the field and like in the real world? Well, the Bosas are going to win, and that subway in Watt's the Watt family backyard. They will be paying protection fee by the end of this. Like 70% of their profits will be going to the Bosa family. There's no doubt. That is a funny commercial, though. I love them ordering subs every day, and they're like, whoever I forget which one is like, he's asking for a description of the sub, and they're like, you get it every day. Stop. Get the same. You haven't seen the commercial, have you?
I have actually seen it. Yes.
You got to watch it. Yeah, it's like it's the same sub every day. Cut it out.
And by the way, there was like a Des Bryant like situation with the Kumaro dad.
No,
like the interviews at the combine, which have not always been quite the same, but they always have had the interviews, and they've had different.
Really?
Yeah.
Did someone asked about the background?
Yeah, because they were like,
"Oh shit,
your grandfather fixes games. Like, we can't have you in the league." And I guess what he said is like, yeah, that guy's my grandpa. Like, I don't know about any of these things that you guys talk about. He's like, he's just the guy that was like there at Christmas. Like, I don't know what you guys were even saying. And apparently, the NFL brought in to talk to all the teams, like one of the leading mob experts from the FBI.
Wow.
And I guess when he came in, they were like, what's going on here? Should we trust this? Should we draft him? Should we not draft him because of that? And apparently what the guy said, he's like, I don't think you know how these families operate. He's like, this is his family. He's not putting his grandson in that position. Like, there's no fucking way. So go ahead and draft him, which is pretty crazy.
God, I'm trying to think of. There was a kid who had pretty good links to one of the 5 crime families who played linebacker at Notre Dame. But
another connection?
Yeah, that shit's still around.
Crazy.
That's good. I'm looking forward to reading that.
We'll see how much I put in there. There'll be a lot of football stuff. Plus, Nick is living with Joey, by the way.
Wait, how does that work?
Well, Nick's out for the year. He got hurt in week 2.
That's a good point.
So he's rehabbing. He's living with Joey down in LA. And apparently there's been a lot of talk about, when it's time to re-sign, let's just go play together. Because they didn't get to play together at Ohio State. He left 1 year. Their careers didn't overlap. Because it's a 3-year difference. So they really want to play together at some point.
Well, when is that going to happen? They're both going to be locked up for like 5-6 years.
Well, Nick will. I mean, Joey already signed
towards the end of Bosa. I said Bosa. Towards the end of Joey Bosa's career.
Well, Joey already re-signed. He's long term. Right. So Nick would have to go there when his rookie deal's over.
He ain't leaving. I'm sure, unless his production's way down. I would assume he's getting the next deal.
Well, he'll get the 5th year, but then he could leave after that. I mean, they'll have a team option for year 5.
That'd be interesting if a rookie was actually offered had big money on the table in his, in that 5th year, or they had the extension available, and he's like, nah, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
He's like, I'll figure out ways to make money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other part of it is they're one of the, and I'm not saying it's completely rare, but they're one of the rare families that could be like, whatever, I don't want to play here. What do you mean? You don't want the money? I got money. Don't worry about it.
Sure. Nick's going to sign with the Chargers and make every other player pay him 10% of their salary.
And believe me, they do have money because that shit does not disappear.
No.
Because as someone said earlier with Capone, with the taxes, you can get fucked on the taxes, but that money's around for generations. if they're smart, if unless they were freaking jabronis who were the power guys, the heavies.
I don't know why it just made me think of it. Did you know that they turned I think it was God, what am I thinking? I'm blanking on Jesus Christ. I'm losing my mind right now.
COVID brain.
I know. Escobar. They turned Escobar's Escobar had a summer home in Tulum, Mexico, which is just south of Cancun, like down by Playa.
Right.
And he had a summer home there, and somebody bought it and turned it into a hotel that you can stay at.
Really?
I was like, oh man. I had some friends that were like, we need to go here, and I looked at it, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. But there's like a pool, but then you go down like a staircase, and there's a pool underneath the pool, which I think would be like, hey, nobody's here. Oh, they're all down in the pool swimming. You can't see them. Which is just crazy. Some of the stuff that's there.
That's
It's
so much
insane
goddamn
that you
money.
can stay there.
Yep.
Oh, insane that you can stay there.
Nice. No John Carvelli tonight, huh? He's always asking me tonight about the Christmas movie run.
I actually saw an article today pop up on my phone that was Netflix's 15 best cheesy Christmas movies. I was like, oh man, this is so for Steve.
Look it up. Is there anything on there?
I mean, it popped on my phone earlier. I think it's out there though. It's got to be.
What is Safety on Disney Plus?
I don't. I
watched Disney Plus tonight, and I think it's this year's. It was like the Disney Christmas special, where they basically bounce around. They have music acts. They bounce around to Orlando and Anaheim, but they also show like Shanghai and Tokyo, and where the hell's the other one? Whatever the second Chinese location is, Hong Kong. And they show the lighting of the castles, right? So this year they couldn't do any of that, so they had to run archives. And the hosts were Derek and Julianne Hough. Those two are unbelievable.
In a good way or bad way?
It's almost uncomfortable, like how happy they are.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Especially the sister. Holy shit! Like she's never not smiling. Like I don't even know how a person does this.
It's so fake.
Like it's beyond description. As you watch, you start getting freaked out. You're like, my God, they're happy.
It's very uncomfortable to see people that happy too, because it's obviously not true. Wait, did you say you watched Jingle Jangle?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, that was like my first movie of the season. I'm telling you, gotta watch it. It was great.
Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square.
I haven't watched it yet.
Christmas Chronicles. It's Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. I am out.
It's great.
You watched that?
It's great. Yeah, it's a great movie.
There's a Christmas Chronicles too?
Yep.
Oh Lord. What about Holiday?
Not yet. Not yet. Netflix is putting out a lot of Christmas movies, and I'm kind of running out of time because I've got like 12 traditional movies I got to watch. So,
how about The Princess Switch and The Princess Switch 2 switched again?
Oh my God, that's Christmas?
Yeah, says it is. Oh, it's starring Vanessa Hudgens, so I might watch. A Christmas Prince, The Royal Baby.
I don't know, man. They sound shaky.
Klaus. A Very Murray Christmas. I guess that's a Bill Murray Christmas special.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. The Night Before Christmas with a KN. Operation Christmas Drop.
That's good. I was telling you about that 2 weeks ago. It's good.
Oh, God.
That was really good.
The Holiday Calendar.
I haven't seen that one.
And Let It Snow.
All right. I'll have to check these out.
Yeah, a lot of great ones. I'm sure you've got your whole week booked.
I got to finish the Santa Claus 2 tonight. I was forced to watch Godmothered. Not bad. Tolerable.
Jesus.
What?
Sounds terrible.
There was the broad from no, I can't remember her name. The broad from Wedding Crashers.
Melissa McCarthy.
No.
Oh, Buddy Crashers. I was thinking, what was I thinking? Jesus Christ, I'm losing it. Bridesmaids. I was thinking about is she even in that? Which one? Isla Fisher or
Isla Fisher, who's actually, she's married to your boy.
Of course, Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah, she's still pretty hot. She's 44. She looks good.
Wow. By the way, can I say I don't know if you watched it because you mentioned Sacha. Yeah,
keep going.
You mentioned Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah, Rachel McAdams in anything is good.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a Netflix movie about the trial of the Chicago 7.
I watched it. Yeah, it was really good.
I thought it was incredible. But by the way, Sacha Baron Cohen as a mainstream actor, really good.
He's good. I know.
Really good. Especially for somebody that brilliant, that funny, to be that good of an actor is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Did you read up on the real person?
Oh, yeah.
You know what happened to him, right?
Yes, but I also I knew a lot about him anyway. Because let me tell you, I think my dad still thinks he's living at those times.
Yeah.
And like those are his people.
Come on, those are when you watch that, those are your people. Wouldn't you like to be?
Oh, of course.
I mean, that was freaking completely inspiring. What happened in Chicago, and I mean, it's basically, I mean, I talked about it months ago when all this bullshit was starting with all the the protests and violent reaction to protests. It's like that was exactly what was going on in 1968.
Yeah, and believe me, if I was around then, they would be my people too. But like my dad, I think legitimately still thinks it's then. But yeah,
well,
I actually
give your dad credit. He hasn't turned into some old asshole who's like, kids these days. Like,
yeah,
that's why I don't understand when you see people from that era who you knew push back, right, and weren't happy with the times and were anti-establishment, and then they get older and they're like, man, fucking kids these days and a protest. Like, fuck you, man, you did it first.
I was ready to go.
Stick to your principles.
Yeah, for sure. I was ready to go out and try to find that judge. I'm sure he's long dead, but I wanted to kill that guy.
He was a classic.
What a jackass.
Yep. He was a classic.
He couldn't have actually been that bad.
It was pretty bad. Go read about it though. They kind of
I did.
It was kind of a combination of things that happened, and the end is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But it didn't exactly happen in that order, so.
Right, yeah, for sure.
It was good.
Yeah. The one without spoiling it, well, it's history, some people might probably know, but the one guy was out of the trial way before. Like he was dismissed as a defendant far earlier in the trial than they made you believe. But yeah, it was great. And then there were so many good ones. In fact, my dad signed into Netflix for the first time, I believe, to watch it. I told him he had to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Tom Hayden character was kind of conservative and then got a little bit rowdy.
Yeah.
You knew who he was married to, right?
Who?
Jane Fonda.
Really? He became a congressman, right?
Yep, he did. Yeah. California representative. But that's why Jane Fonda got super active. And people thought Jane Fonda was anti-American for some of the stuff she did because she was married to Tom Hayden. So.
Well, and then Ramsey Clark, the former Attorney General, who I ended up. I mean, obviously in the movie he's a hero.
Amazing, yeah.
But I read up on him and like, man, that guy was awesome. He was great.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
Go watch it. What was the name of it again?
Trial of the Chicago 7, I believe it's called.
Yeah, it was really, really, really good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Another Christmas movie I watched was Last Christmas.
Oh my God.
It's all George Michael music, and it's built around the song "Last Christmas."
Yeah,
it was actually pretty good.
Terrible.
And it's
there's no chance.
And it's with what's her name, Daenerys from Game of Thrones.
Okay, I'm out.
Not terrible. It's great. The actual song brought to life.
Just the last thing. Sorry, before we move on to Trial of the Chicago 7, because after I watched it, I was like, man, the writing and directing was so good in this. And then I looked up, I was like, oh, Aaron Sorkin wrote and directed it. Of course, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
That guy's never done anything bad.
Who was this? Jane Fonda? Yeah, there are a lot of people who did. There's actually it's about 2 years old now. There's actually a great 4-piece documentary on Jane Fonda. It's very cool. Like, you don't realize all that she did and all that she accomplished, and like she was fighting on behalf of women's rights when there were still women who were like, no, fuck you, we just want to listen to our husbands, and we're fine being subservient and second-class citizens. So, by the way, you know what? This is what I'm going to close on. Man, so that Sarah Fuller goes out this weekend, nails a couple of kicks, and now the game's canceled. So Vanderbilt's done. She's probably not going to be playing anymore. But Jesus Christ, and I know a lot of it's bots and anonymous pussies, you know, the white fragility thing, male fragility thing. But some of the comments, like, they're rooting against her, and so many dudes on Twitter who are like, I could do it, big deal. Like, you couldn't fucking do it, asshole. The average dork could not kick an extra point, even the shorter college football distance. The lady played soccer. She's like 6'2". Listen, I don't know if, you know, it's just the whole thing is like, man.
Well, I think
there are a lot of jealous dudes. What a bunch of giant pussies. Like, she accomplished something. You know what I like is she's embracing it and kind of like, she's fanning the flames. Good for her. Bring it on. You're never going to meet any of these, you know, underachieving pansies in your life. Fuck them. Throw freaking gasoline all over them. Light them up. Let's go.
I think Vanderbilt actually put her in a bad position too, which I didn't like. Because you're right. A lot of this is just people looking for things to attack, and it's the liberals, and it's like this whole obnoxious like thing. But like, you're right. She can kick. They went and found somebody that could kick because they needed a kicker, and they brought her out, and she kicked extra points. But my issue was like, okay, she has the job. She's your kicker. But then when they had a field goal to kick, they didn't run her out there. They ran out some dude. Right. I was like, if she's the kicker, let her kick. Like, what are we doing? Why are we only letting her kick extra points?
But you see the underlying story here. When guys start getting into she doesn't deserve the chance, or it's a PR stunt, it generally is going to mean it's some underachieving person. They haven't lived out their dreams. They didn't become what they wanted to, and they start going down this whole path of like, oh, this person got a free pass, and like, if you talk to them deep down, they're like, I got passed by all these people, but I deserve it. Like, there's nothing about deserving it. Do it. Either achieve or don't, and then if you don't, list all the fucking excuses you want. I don't want to hear it.
Well, but in the end, okay, so because I agree with you, but I do want to point out there is other sides, because a lot of the people are just looking for things, and they're never going to change it. But like, how about the guy who actually is the kicker on the team? I think that is looked over, right, a little bit, right? Because again, he kicked the field goals, but in the end, say 20 years from now, he's sitting around and like, I was better, I earned the spot, and they didn't let me kick. And then somebody like us would be like, yeah, right, whatever, politics, whatever, and like, it's actually true.
But that's not who I'm talking about, because that guy was already.
I know it's not, but I'm telling you that there is that part of it.
I do understand there are people who feel like, hey, this was kind of a PR stunt down the past. Get something good out of the Vanderbilt football season. So that's to be haggled over, no doubt. But it's the average dipshit sitting at home who was not an athlete. Like, I don't want to hear it. Please.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just, I mean, there's
right. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. The SEC Special Teams Player of the Week, that was ridiculous. You were patronizing her. Yeah, that was dumb. And you actually hurt her cause by doing that.
Of course.
You can give her, we can celebrate. She broke the Power 5 barrier. That's cool. You didn't need to give her an award. Then most people wouldn't even have cared if she got it or not. They don't even know that it's handed out.
Yeah. But I mean, and again, like, I am applauding of what happened. I'm supporting her. I think all those are great. But like, giving her the award is dumb. It's just dumb. And like, when you do things like my whole impression of what happened was that they had kickers that were on COVID list. They couldn't kick. They needed somebody that could kick, and they brought her in. And like, hey, she's capable of doing what they needed to do. She didn't have to kick at all that week because they didn't score a point, so she didn't have any attempts. And then, okay, well, now our kicker's back, and he's back to kick field goals. We're still going to let her kick the extra points. Well, like, now you're putting everybody in a bad position of like, well, now she's not the actual kicker. She didn't win the job. She didn't earn it. But no, you're still going to let her do it. So now everybody has this ammo to come back. Like, I would have said, hey, you were the kicker of that game because you earned it and you were the best person to do it. And now you're not. so we're not going to do it again. But like you do open the door for all the people that don't agree with it and think it is garbage to then have that to point to. And I think you're putting her in a terrible position at that point.
I get it. I love Truth though is trying to bust my horns during a high point of Rutgers sports. Rutgers did add a soccer player in about the fourth game of the season, and he actually made some kicks. So he actually hit the game winner and hit another key field goal. He missed one against Maryland. So I'll take that win. With a third string quarterback. Maryland was all beat up at quarterback too. By the way, I also take for all these fucks over the years from Syracuse and Maryland, up your ass, because Rutgers basketball beat both Syracuse and Maryland inside of a week. So go fuck yourselves.
Didn't they have Sante? Wasn't he their kicker?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, years ago. And I forget who. Someone always chimes in with Judge Ito because they had Jeremy Ito back when they were pretty good. You know, in the 10-11 win range. So
I think that Sante kid he was on HGTV.
You know, I do get the feeling. I was just talking about Rutgers beating Maryland tonight. They beat them by 14. They closed strong, and they beat Syracuse, I think, by 10, and they closed strong in that one. I do get the feeling that this season is not going to have a tournament again. I'm going to get fucked out of the tournament, and they have a good team. They have a good veteran team, and they're going to get fucked out of the tournament again.
I think the season is going to pause.
Yeah,
but I think there will be a tournament, and I think it'll be bubbled. So I think you'll be all right.
You think they'll try to do, like, once it pauses, they'll try to do like a bubble and like a conference bubble and a couple of conference bubbles, like 3 weeks apart, 4 weeks apart, like once a month, February, March. Try to get in, try to play like 6-8 games per team.
Yeah, and then have a tournament that's bubbled in Indianapolis.
All right, I'll take that.
I saw the women are going to a one location tournament.
Final Four in San Diego or San Antonio, right?
The whole tournament's going to be San Antonio.
Oh, that's right, the whole tournament.
Yeah, they announced those plans today, I think. So I think they will do it. They have enough time to plan now. Like last time, you remember, literally like the sports world shut down like right before. It was during conference tournament, so it was a week out from the tournament, and they had no way to plan it. This time, at least, they've got some time to think about it. And I think you could just bring everybody into Indianapolis, have a bubble, and go. Like bubbles work.
Yeah. Are you mad Michigan's off to a good start?
Because I know it's going to shut down?
No, because you said Juwan Howard is not a great coach, or you don't like him.
I don't think he is. No, have a great year and get another job. Get an NBA job.
I don't know. They have some freshman who's like 7'1", 260, who's averaging like 15 and 8 already. So
they're inconsistent. Like, I mean, they were obviously really good in the UCF game. They looked great. But the Oakland game before that, Oakland is not the Oakland team that people have known. They just looked bad. It took overtime, and then like they had. And here's another frustrating thing about Juwan, and I think he's doing better than I thought he would, obviously. But like there's little things like they had a play that literally Oakland couldn't stop. It was just a high post action where they would put it there. They'd have cutters on both sides, and then they could not figure out how to stay with the cutters and cover the guy with the ball. Like they just couldn't do it, and it was a layup every single time. And then they had like 4 possessions to try to win the game, and they never ran the fucking play. Like, what are you doing? And then they got to overtime and ran it 3 times and got layups, and you're like, okay, like, but where was this? Like, you knew this play was working. They had no answer for it, and you stopped running it. So I don't know.
Do you buy? We're gonna close here, but do you buy with UNLV basketball? Candy was gonna be part of the show today, and then we kind of ran out of time. We had a schedule change, but we'll get to it later in the week. He said the same thing last week. Do you get his whole notion on this meaningless game thing? Like, is there really a meaningless game situation for UNLV? Like, they needed to play Pepperdine tonight. He's very angry that outside of non-con, like no one should be. I guess his whole point with like Gonzaga and other schools, they shouldn't be playing like lesser games. He wasn't even a backer of Baylor and Gonzaga. He's like, what's the point? Like,
I don't really understand it. Like,
really,
I don't.
You want to just have your team go straight into conference play and they're not ready to go?
No, I mean, I think you need to work. Whatever, I don't know. Scrimmages probably don't work either.
I don't know. Is it worth the risk? Because in the case of UNLV, like they tried and they didn't get to play either one of the games. So
no, but I would definitely try to play. I would definitely try to play everything regionally.
Yeah,
and not get on planes, not go to restaurants out of town, like all those things that you have to do to travel. Like I wouldn't do all those things.
So UNLV screwed us by playing in the Maui and playing at Kansas State because then they come back, they get a test, they get a positive test. We don't know where they got it or who it is.
Could have got it here.
They were going to play regional games against Eastern Washington and Pepperdine at home.
Well, now we'll know for whoever doesn't play the next game. Yeah, I think you are putting yourself in a weird position now. Going to that tournament, that's fine. And again, we don't know where the positive test came from, but like the stopping in Kansas State on the way back, like why? And I just don't understand why you just don't say, okay, we're going to play like the Pepperdine game today. You could bus. You can play University of San Diego. You can play USC, UCLA. You play Arizona State, Southern Utah, who's actually Todd Simon's got a team right now. They're playing pretty well. Like play those teams, and take buses and just not expose yourself that much. Like those are the kind of things I think. Like just try to get as many games as you can in your area. Get yourself ready for conference play. Go to conference play. And I still think conference play should be in a bubble, but what are you going to do? It's too late. But I haven't understood from the beginning, and I've said it multiple times from the beginning. Like I don't understand where is the revenue coming from for these games? Like they're barely going on TV, and I don't mean UNLV. I mean everybody.
Yeah,
they're barely going on TV. Like some conferences have deals and they have rights deals, and the more games they put on, the better and everything. But a lot of them, like you're shopping to get on television, or you're not on television, and you have no fans. And if you look around the country, I mean, I know people aren't focusing on this as much as we are because they actually have lives and jobs. But if you look around the country, like every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every day, there's games at like 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon. Because like nobody cares when you're playing. You're just playing these games. But why? Like, where are they getting money from? And I'm not just talking about like Power Fives. See, like a weird Eastern Kentucky versus Illinois Chicago game, like on 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, and you're like, what are they doing? It doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like risk for no rewards.
I don't know the economics. I think it's mostly driven by coaches, and they want to make sure they have a good season and they can cash in at the end of the year by making the tournament. So you got to play a couple of non-cons.
Now that Krzyzewski wants it shut down, it's getting shut down. So
getting shut down, it's all over.
Yeah.
All right, that'll wrap it tonight. We're back we're back tomorrow at 2:00 on radio, and then tomorrow night I think it's Alex and Allie. We'll see what we can round up for the Tuesday night happy hour.
Q Allie.
Q not Allie up. Q Allie. All right, we'll see.